Well, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling. This is the Raging Herbalist number 272. For those who are keeping track, hopefully you are. If you're a longtime participant, listener, or viewer, whatever we want to call you, glad that you're back. If you're brand new, welcome, welcome. Raging Herbalist, we talk about a topic that I enrage upon. Don't really drift off too much into politics typically, and all of that. And you can catch us on YouTube and Facebook group, which is Position to Win Book, Position to Win Book, and go and check us out there. And as always, the ever lovely Sandra will be asking me the questions that you would be wanting to ask me, but she's here instead of you. Welcome, Sandra.
Hello, how are you doing?
Doing good. It's now spring, but weather can be kooky around springtime, as you know.
That's right. Definitely.
So just keep your options open, I guess. All right. So what are we talking about today?
All right, so we were talking about Amazon selling cars. So how long has Amazon been selling cars?
Turns out that Amazon has wanted to sell cars for a number of years, and they've looked at this market and said, well, we've got more and more prime customers than ever before. Right now, they have about 150 million prime customers, which is a lot. They have definitely a big group of people. So they've wanted to figure out how to sell cars. There's just a couple of problems. I mean, you can't just stick a label on a car and have it get shipped and delivered and all of that. So they have to go through a process. So Amazon, about a year ago, maybe a little longer ago, they decided to go and seek out a manufacturer. They cut a deal with Hyundai, and they opened it up to their employees only to test it, which is why I like how Amazon operates. I mean, the stuff works. That's why when somebody ever says to me, John, how should I get my website designed? I said, well, just think about the standards that you want to live up to. And if you can live up to, get close to Amazon standards, then you're in good shape. So they started about a year ago, that pilot program. And that way they had people trying it and testing it. And if it boo-booed up, which is a nice way of saying, effed up, but if they boo-booed up, they would say, oh, well, we got to fix that. So about a year.
And how does the buying process through Amazon work?
Well, there's only 48 major cities right now in the US that have availability. I turn out to be in one of them. And even though it sounds like you're buying online, Amazon is essentially introducing you to a buying process through Hyundai, but you'll eventually get to a dealer. So for any of you out there who want to totally avoid the dealership experience, maybe we could say, a little bit like going through the thresher, whatever a thresher might be, but it doesn't sound good. It sounds painful. So you go online and you find a car, and only Hyundai right now, only new cars right now, and you deal with the fact that you're in kind of this walled garden, which is Amazon. And then you do as many things as possible. You get your financing figured out, which by the way is also going to be a lot better than some of the pain and agony you go through at the car dealership. Now, some of the fees look like they're discounted because the car industry is notorious for having, market adjustment fees, and it happens to be Friday fees, and it's another BS fee. So that happens. And then when you complete the process, you end up taking delivery of that vehicle. In fact, as I went through various options trying to play customer to get ready for this, looks like they only let you select a dealer within 75 miles of where you live. And more importantly, and I get it because they don't want you driving, 500 miles to pick up a car. Not that people don't do that, but that would kind of defeat the purpose of making it easy to buy a car. So you end up with a Hyundai dealer that's somewhat local to you.
And given all of your marketing experience, do you think they'll be successful?
I think that they have a good shot at being successful, primarily because Amazon has such a great reputation. Their website works, their processes work. Now, they failed miserably on the medical side. They thought they were going to knock that out with Amazon Medicine 101 or whatever it was. I was actually an early on buyer of that. Was not good because you couldn't find providers, and that turns out to be a big deal, right? You want to be able to do that. But in this case, I think they have worked with a company like Hyundai, who's very aggressive. They're trying to grow in the US. The US is actually their number one market. So they probably have a much better chance. Now, it's limited to those specific cars. So if you're not a buyer of a Hyundai, if you're not a person who wants to buy a Korean car, even if it's bolted together in the US, then that will be an obstacle. So I think they have a chance. Now, the real question is do they add more sales to Hyundai? Number one, because again, if you're learning a marketing lesson, do you add incremental business? So is it above and beyond what you would have already had? Or number two, does it cannibalize sales that you would have had otherwise? And number three, does it give customers a sense, or potential customers a sense, that since this is an easier way to buy, maybe I will swing my vote this way versus that way. And we'll see if that really works. So I think they've got better than a 50% chance. The medical side, they're still kind of banging away at it, but it's a tougher road because it's so dispersed. And cars are the second biggest thing that anybody ever buys next to a house.
And don't people use the internet today?
Staggering 90%. I was kind of surprised that it is only 90%, but 90% of anyone who buys a car, new, used, or otherwise, consults the internet in some way, shape, or form, and they get some information. Maybe they find their car via the internet and drive over to the dealer, or go find somebody's third party. And then that becomes, because there's really going to now be three ways to buy a car, if you will. Now you're going to be able to buy it online, quasi online, let's say. You're going to be able to go to the dealer, or you're going to buy it from an independent third party, which means a previous owner. So everybody's using the internet today, but the question is how deeply they use the internet and what information do they get. I can tell you that most people are not really the best at searching, and they'll get stuck, and they won't find ways to do it. My suggestion is, if you're going to do that, you should go and spend some serious time and do some research and figure out what you want to buy, and then stick to your guns. That's the hardest thing, is that you should know what you're looking for before you get there, because it's easy to kind of get sucked into some things that maybe you don't want to do. Now, if you're sitting there wondering, okay, John, I'm not going to buy a car today, but I'm thinking about what I might also be doing. Well, hopefully you're running a business, or you're an entrepreneur, or you're a business owner, or you're in marketing or sales. And what I can tell you at that point in time is that, well, there is a purchase that you should not put off, not for even another second. And that is picking up my book. Most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. Absolutely correct. And this book will save you the pain and agony of that. So you can pick it up physically from positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. And I will, of course, endorse it for you if you have a mind to. And you can pick it up at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. In physical form, you can ask any bookstore to say, I want to pick up this title, and it should be available. And you can also get it on Kindle, Nook, and Apple iBooks. On the other side is Remote Work for a Better World. This is all about how to make your life more effective if you're going to be in the gig economy, and if you're in fact going to go out there and not go into an office 9 to 5. And check it out. And this way you can do it even better. And then finally, if you want to get a little bit of rage in your life, get the Raging Verbalist mug. Check it out. Nice red interior, ready to go. And this way you can always have just a little bit of Raging Verbalist with you every single day. And with that, Sandra, what's next?
All right. So, what are the barriers to this happening?
Well, there's lots of barriers, because the selling car business is like $2.5 to $3 trillion a year in the United States. And therefore, that's some mighty big rice bowls, as I like to call them, that somebody's trying to protect. So there's no way that dealers want people to sell directly to consumers anyway. And this has been going on, for well over 100+ years. Manufacturers loved it at one point in time, because if you had a dealer network, you could essentially ship those cars and book those deals and all of that, and on we go. Now, Tesla first, and then Rivian second, really have no dealers. They are their own dealers, and they only sell direct. So they can't even sell in certain states. And I think that we're going to see some of these barriers may come down. My guess is that we probably have too many dealerships. If you work at a dealership today, just be aware of the fact that, the days of when this was really the only way to do it are going to go away, especially if you can have some assuredness that you can buy something and not get stuck with a bad deal. That's, by the way, the biggest barrier in my mind, is the concern that you're going to buy something and not know if it's going to work. Now, I can tell you that Dell Computers years ago started selling business computers direct, advertising almost exclusively in the Wall Street Journal, and they were getting $2,000 to $4,000 for a computer. And most of the people said, well, that's not going to happen, because typically people would go to a showroom and they'd hang around, they'd talk to somebody, and they would, toggle the keyboard. Well, hey, how's this look? How's that look? Still, people do that, but more and more people buy these things sight unseen. And I think that those barriers will wash away slowly but surely. But the real question is will the regulators let it happen? Because if it does, it marks the end for a lot of these dealerships that are just kind of hanging on.
And will we ever get to select a car and have it dropped off?
That is the premise of Carvana, by the way, is that you get to select a car online, you go on their app, you think it's very cool, and then a truck drives up and drops your car off. You've never seen it, you've never touched it, you've never felt it. They do offer some kind of guarantee. Carvana has been through ups and downs. My guess is that we're going to continue to see some of that happen, but more likely, is because of the formality involved in this purchase, and you're going to spend, I think the average car right now is like $42,000 to $50,000. That's usually not going to be just like an impulse buy. So I think that we're going to see some of that, but I think it's more of a gimmick than that's going to be the standard. You're going to want to go somewhere and collect it.
And will there ever be a time when buying cars will be only online?
As trends change and as generations advance, I think that more and more we see the malls emptying out. We see businesses going broke and not showing, not having that retail store. I think that there's a distinct possibility, again, with Tesla and Rivian showing the way, having people order the car that they want or finding the car that they want, and then saying, yeah, that's it, and I want to buy that one. So I think that that's in the future, but it will probably take a considerable amount of time. There will always be people who want to go out and kick the tires and do the test drive and do all those other things. And in most cases, that's going to prevent that. Probably at least 20% may never go to an online model.
And why is there such a dislike or a hatred of going to a dealership?
Well, you almost have to, get mounted up. It's like a movie where you got to put on a Kevlar vest and get grease under your eyes and go into combat and go to fight. Takes an average transaction of 4+ hours. There's a lot of waiting around. There's a lot of issues. There's 5 upsells at least that happen during this process. Again, I'm in the sales world. Again, that's what Dr. Speed Selling is, helping people learn how to sell. But I can tell you, nobody likes all that waiting around and all the bullshit that you got to go through and all of the different things that happen. No two people tell you the exact same story at the dealership. Lots of misinformation, lots of miscommunication, lots of distrust. And then in the end, they, do they actually do what they're supposed to do? Because that's the point of it. If the dealer was, maybe that coddling, taking care of you type of thing, that was one thing. That isn't really how things happen today. I can tell you that years ago when I got this patriotic streak and I said, damn it, I'm going to go buy myself an American car. And I walked in and I bought a Pontiac Grand Prix. I know Pontiac is now gone and the year was 1988. All I can tell you is that the guy in the booth next to me, because we could hear his transaction, he got $1,000 off of a more expensive car. I got like $4,700 off of a less expensive car. He felt like he got an amazing deal. I felt like I got the deal that I wanted. But the bottom line of it is that you have to be really just motivated to drive for the best bargain. Most people are not. So I think that the desire to have an alternative is just that. I don't want to have to deal with all the nonsense that happens at the dealership.
And how will AI affect car buyers and car manufacturers going forward?
AI is a super hot topic. Nissan has announced that they're trying to cut 18 months or 17 months off of their design and production cycle. They've been talking about that since, by the way, the 1970s. It's just kind of a natural pain in the ass thing, you know. And the question is if you go on Amazon, do you get to pick the exact model that you want? Well, not really, because you have to pick what they have, what's in inventory, what isn't in inventory. Um, Tesla learned this lesson because at one time, and again, I wasn't on their website to experience this, but I've talked to people who own Teslas. At one point in time, you went on to Tesla site and you built the car, like Build-A-Bear was in the malls. You built the car and you got the exact car, and it took them however long it was going to take them. However, Tesla learned a very valuable lesson, which is humans are impulsors. We do not wait around. We don't want to wait around. So they started building up inventory of cars, primarily because you need to keep the line running. You can't stop and start a production line. So they started building up cars that met a certain, sweet spot of options and color combinations and things, and that took off and did pretty well for them. So I think that we're going to see probably mass customization because of AI, where you're going to be able to pick exactly what you want. And if that happens, but that's probably my prediction, 10 years away, maybe as short as 7 years away, where you actually get to pick everything. However, lots of times people really don't care that much. Very high-end cars like a Porsche 911 has hundreds of different combinations of options and things, and people will go in there. Of course, the Porsche dealer is very different than going into a Hyundai dealer. Porsche, you sit there and they've got an espresso machine and a little snacks and little things like that. You sit down and you can, serious people, because I have friends who own them, serious people will sit there and they'll kind of work through how they're going to build the car, and then they send it off and somebody in Germany bolts the thing together. And it may take up to, 9 months to get the car. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think we're going to see more mass customization where you get to pick what you want to pick, and more rapid assembly ideas and how that might happen. Now, with that, all I can say is that if you're in the market for buying a car, I have only a couple simple rules. Number one is always do your research ahead of time before you show up at the dealership. Number two, always know how you're going to pay for the car. If you're a member of a bank, a credit union, or whatever, make sure that you know exactly that you have your financing, because the financing department is where the dealerships make a lot of money, and they usually will stick you with some bad deals. I ended up getting stuck with a bad loan on that Pontiac Grand Prix because, of course, I was so fixated on getting the price. They gave me the price, and I got a shitty finance deal. Ta-da! Guess what? That's the way the world works. So know where your money is going to come from. So those are two tips. And number three is that if you fall in love with a car, just know that you will probably pay a premium in spite of all the things that you're going to think, oh, I'm going to be hanging tough, because people buy cars for lots of impulsive reasons. Color is one of them, and a variety of other things. So with that, I just want to hope that you get the best deal you possibly can. Go check out Amazon. It's kind of fun to play with it, especially if you want to learn about how the process is working. If you're in the world of business, which all of you probably are, you'll learn a lot by hanging out on the Amazon site. Now, I can't tell you how much money you're going to spend. Don't spend too much, but you can learn a lot of things by how smart Amazon puts things together. And it looks like the automotive side, they're in the process of making it better and cleaner and easier than ever before. And so for myself, John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling, and the ever lovely Sandra, this has been the Raging Verbalist number 272. Go and have a great week, and love to hear from your comments about whether or not you went out and bought a car online exclusively. Until next time, we'll see you then.